Hey guys, it's Jake. Welcome back to the race vlog, and today we've got a Zwift Racing League race. Race 5, round 2, 22-23 season, and it's Legends and Lava. Our team is currently top of the league. We've got a 5-point gap over the second place team. So 2 races to go. We're in the West B2 Open Division. So we've got a really good chance of promotion, but we're going to need to get a good result today. And on this course, we've got Titans Grove Reverse KOM, we've got the Watopia Sprint across the bridge, and then we've got the Volcano. So everybody's got their job today. My job specifically is going to be to sit in on the sprint and the KOM, try and do as little work as possible, and then when we get to the Volcano, my job is going to be to just hang in there and try and get as good a position on the FTS and the FAL on the Volcano as possible and try and finish as high as I can. There's some really strong riders with some insane 5-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute watt per kilo in this race, so we're going to have to really go all in. I've got a feeling I'm going to be doing some sort of 5-minute power record or thereabouts if I want to be near the front. It's about 25k, should be half an hour, 35 minutes, something like that. Just going to be fast, furious. Let's head into the pen, let's do this.
And as we head into the pen, things didn't take a particularly good start. My microphone wasn't working, so I didn't record the ride audio, and worse than that, my webcam had a glaring light in the middle of it. So I've done what I can to keep the footage. I did debate whether I should do some bad GCN style acting and re-record it all out for you, but that was too sad even for me, so instead, this is the best we can do. It's only for one race, so feel free to complain in the comments and I'll feel free to point and laugh. And as we set off out of the pen, as expected, it's not too brutal of a start. I think everyone's got one eye on the Titans Grove Reverse KOM coming up in just a few K, so we'll keep an eye on the rollers and we'll skip through to that one and have a look at the first difficulty. And as I said at the start, my job here is not to go all out on this KOM. That's the beauty of having a great team with riders that can do jobs for you. So my teammates, Darren and Nilok, are going to be the ones going all out on this KOM, trying to get the foul points, trying to get the FTS points, doing the hard work for me so I can save myself for the end. And as we can see here, I'm doing just enough to move up the group, try and not let any wheels go, and keep in that draft. The draft effect is still really high here, even though we're on an incline, even though we're on a KOM, it's 35 kph. So I'm just doing enough, still doing over 6 watts per kilo here, just to stay in the group. And actually, I make a little bit of a mistake. I'm sat too far back, and I let the wheels open up. So as you can see ahead of me, the group is starting to string out, and I'm way back in 36th place. So I make the decision that I need to try and move up this group. Even though I'm not going for points, I don't want to get dropped. I need to be in the front of the group. You obviously can't win the race if you're not at the front of the group. So I need to make sure that I'm not at the back here. And as we get towards the top of this KOM, the pace gets really brutal. People start kicking off, trying to pick up those foul points, trying to pick up those FTS points, and I spot the gap here and realise I really have to surge to try and get on. It's energy I didn't want to use, and unfortunately for me, I had to use it to try and stick with the front group. As we'll see a little bit later on, that was a tactical error because the group comes back together anyway. I could have saved that energy, sat in the draft, and let the group come back together. But sometimes, we've said it before, you have to gamble. I'd rather use that energy, be at the front of the group, in case it does not come back together. Because if it doesn't, it's game over and your race is already done. And Darren and Nilok did their job perfectly. Darren managed to get second foul and second FTS, and Nilok took 7th place, a really good haul for the team, and that puts us in a commanding position for the rest of the race. So let's skip forward and have a look at the next difficulty. So again, as expected for this one, the next 10 minutes or so are really quiet. Everybody's recovering their energy from that huge effort with one eye on the sprint coming up next. And for us, we've got Nilok, Darren, Stewie and Tommy are going to empty the tank, give it everything they've got, and just leave everything out on the road to try and get as many FTS and as many foul points as they can, leaving me and Alvaro to try and pick up the pieces on the Volcano straight afterwards. And you can feel the pace winding up from a K or 2 out from this sprint as everybody's trying to jostle for position and move to the front of the group for those sweet foul points. Except for me, I'm sat at the back, I'm trying to draft as much as possible, do as little work, let my teammates get all the glory, get all the points, and do the hard work once again for me. But even then, it's not easy sitting in this group, even if you're not going for points. So as we'll see, the surges are really high, and to not lose the wheel, to not let the gaps open up, we have to put in a bit of a burst. As Darren and co are really laying down the watts, and they are blowing apart the peloton with that speed, as everybody else is trying desperately to cling on to their wheel for dear life. including me, and these surges really do take it out of your legs. So even though I wasn't sprinting, this definitely hurt the leg. But it is really inspiring to see when your teammates smash the segments, and Darren, Stewie, Tommy and Nilok all did a fantastic job there, getting FTS and FAL points, leaving it all on the road. And their job is finished for the day. They've done it excellently, and they're handing it over to me and Alvaro to try and get as many points as we can on the KOM. So great job, boys. Fantastic job for letting me save some energy, and we'll try and do you proud. So that just leaves one thing left on the agenda, the volcano itself. So we're going to skip forward, get to the main event, and see if we can survive. So I have a couple of things in mind for this KOM specifically. There are a couple of riders who I really need to watch that I know are going to do well here. One of them is called Mountain Goat. She's a rider with a 5.2 20-minute watt per kilo. So she's really, really strong, and this is her sort of climb. There's also a few other really strong riders, Azor Cabral and Angus Wilson, who I really need to keep my eyes on. And first and foremost at the front of my mind is making sure I am in the front of this group no matter what. And I see the Mountain Goat make a break for it. I've seen her do this in too many races now, and I know to immediately get on her wheel and try and let her drag me. If she's going off the front of the group, I want to go with her, and at the very least, I'm going to make everybody else chase us. And as you can see, the other riders start to bridge up, and we're already starting to see splits further back. There's so much draft available on this climb, even now we're doing 31, 32 kph, that you absolutely must be at the front of the group. If the gaps open up, you're going to be working so much harder than the people in the draft in front of you that it's basically impossible. And that means that I'm more than prepared to go over my threshold for as long as I can at the start of this climb, to just cling on for as long as possible. And I'm playing a little bit of a game here where I'm trying to do as little work as possible but stick in the front group. So I'm trying to see if the riders around me will come past me and close the wheels for me. They may not be able to. They might be already suffering, or they might be strong and trying to force me to close the gaps for them. So there's definitely some fun and games going on here. And as you can see, Machado, who's another really strong rider who can do 5.0 for 20 minutes, he decides that he's not going to pull me to the front. If he's going to bridge up, he's not going to take anyone with him, and I have to put in a surge to go with him. There are a couple of riders that do come with us, but that puts further dents into the group, and the group is down to a selection now of less than 10 riders at the front, as I am really starting to suffer here trying to sit in this group. But I look around me, I can see my teammate Alvaro's with me. That gives me strength. I know we're in a really good position here, and it's just about trying to hang on for as long as possible. As I say, there's still plenty of draft. We just hit 41 kph on the volcano, so I know that as long as I sit in those wheels, let those other riders work for me, and let the Mountain Goat try and drag us to the top, that I'm in with a chance of getting a decent result here. And I know I'm not as strong as the Mountain Goat. I know I can't do 6 watts per kilo up this for the duration, which means that I'm having to try and take my rest and recovery where I can get it. When I can sit in the wheels and do 3.5, I'm absolutely going to do that. And when I have to surge and put in a burst to stay with the group, I'm going to do that for as long as I physically can. And as I'm looking at the riders around me, trying to gauge who's still here, how many people there are, I realise that there's 10 or so riders in the front group, which means that as long as I stay in this group and don't get caught by anybody from behind, then I'm going to get FTS and foul points, and that's mission accomplished. So that gives me great strength to know I just have to cling on from here, and anything extra I can pick up is a bonus. As we come into this flat section of the volcano where draft is at its absolute most, I'm doing the least work of the entire climb. You'll see here that there's points where I'm not even doing really 3.0 watts per kilo, but that is all about to change. We start to hit the steeper upper slopes of the second half of the volcano, and the cracks really start to appear in this group. And this is where I'm really going to have to start saving my energy, as I know I'm well above threshold, well above what I can hold for 5 minutes. So I'm going to use every last drafting trick of the trade that I've learned to try and save me every last watt possible to just cling in here. I'm really hurting at this point, but I'm buoyed by the fact that I can see there's only 1.7k left. As soon as we go through that Flamme Rouge, it's going to feel like the home run. So I'm just desperately trying to cling on to there as the pace really goes up in the group, as the stronger riders sense the chance to try and bin at some of the weaker riders off the back and surge away to victory. So I make the decision here that I'm too far back. I'm at the very back of the group, and it's starting to string out. The draft effect is going to be minimalized at that point, so I'm going to use every last bit of energy I have here to try and move up the group and stick to as close as the front of it as I possibly can. Even though it's only 10 meters or so to the front rider at the group there, that's quite a lot on an incline like this, and you're going to have to use a big burst of energy if you want to try and get to the very front of the group. So it's best to not leave it till the very end and to try and move up in advance. And you can feel that riders are starting to get into real difficulty here, and there's going to be gaps opening up. I look to the back of the group and I can see that Alvaro is there and he's struggling. So I'm trying to let the riders just behind actually come past me, and I can string the group out a little bit to try and make it as long as possible for Alvaro to stick in the back of that group. But just as I do that, the riders come around me, I see there's a 7 meter gap, and Alvaro shouts on the race radio that he's cooked and to just go. So I make the decision to do that. I put in a little bit of a burst there and I get onto the back of the group just as we hit the fairly flat wooden boards to signal the final kilometre. Now I am really hurting here. As you can see, the gaps are opening up in the group and I'm doing my best to try and close them, but I am really suffering, clinging on for dear life here. But I know that there's only 1k to go. I know that I have quite a good punch, and I know if I get to the last 300 metres in this group, there's a chance of a podium up for grabs if I can just survive. So I'm having to con myself here into thinking there's only 1 more minute of effort left at 800 meters. And of course, if it was flat, that would be true. However, on the Volcano, that's more like 2 minutes. And in my mind, 2 minutes is just too much. I can't mentally deal with it. And honestly, I feel like if there wasn't a win or a podium up for grabs here, I would be out the back of the group. But that's the beauty of psychology. Sometimes you can trick yourself. Even though I'm well above my 5-minute FTP here, but I fall victim to my own advice. Even though I know I'm too far back at this point, I'm just finding it really difficult to move up the group. So I know I need to be further forward than this, and I know in my heart of hearts here that the win is probably going to be just out of reach, but I'm going to do my absolute best. I'm going to give it all for the team. They've emptied the tank for me, I'm going to empty the tank for them, and we're going to see how well we can do as we hit the final 400 meters and the race absolutely explodes as everybody starts emptying the tank, giving it everything they've got. The orange numbers hit the screen. I'm way too far back here. As you can see, I'm out of the draft, so I'm leaving myself more work than I needed to do, but it really is just a case of I'm emptying the tank here with my sprint energy. I do a slow wind up. I try and come past as many riders as I can. I can see that first place is going to be just out of sight. I don't have those sorts of numbers, but here, if I dig really deep, I might be able to beat the Mountain Goat and Machado and nail my place on the podium. So I am really burning here. The lactic acid is overloading. I can barely breathe, but I can see the finish line and I'm just trying to grind those legs down. So I managed to come over the line in 3rd place, take that final podium spot, and it's all that I can do to collapse on the bike in sheer exhaustion. I'm unable to look up. I'm unable to tell the team how I got on. And if I'm being brutally honest, when I crossed the line, I was pretty disappointed not to get the win. But in retrospect, I think that the podium spot was a really good result against some absolutely fantastic riders. Some riders with way better numbers than me. You can't win every race. All you can try and do is give your best performance to maximize your chances. And I certainly did that. I did a PB on the Volcano of 6 minutes 35 at just over 5 watts per kilo. So a PB both on the Volcano and a PB power numbers wise for that duration. So I can't ask for much more than that. And on the day, the team picked up 1st place in the league, cementing our 1st place spot in our division, putting us in a stellar position for the final week. So great work to the team. Everybody did their job to perfection, did exactly what they were supposed to do, and played a huge part in the overall win. So next week we've got the Queen stage of ZRL, the 55k Eastern 8 stage. So let's see if we can do any better on that one. I hope you enjoyed this video. I always say it, but give me a like, a subscribe and a comment. It really helps the YouTube algorithm for smaller channels, and it means that this content can get seen by more people. So I hope you enjoyed it. Catch you on the next one.